starseeds are in a way a light virus in a dark world. That's the way I see it. We're the light virus, infecting the world with a new energy of light, of hope, of faith, of trust, of love.
Hello, You-est, You-self family. I am so excited you're here with me. Thank you. Thank you. I know there's so many places that you can be, and I'm honored. I'm honored to be part of your spiritual journey. This conversation with Steve Nobel is going to glow your mind. And if you have ever heard of anything called your golden shadow, star seeds, the soul matrix, wanting to connect to angelic light, stay tuned, stick around. There's a special ending as well. It's a very, very beautiful, powerful, deep conversation. And I do like to always say, let it move through you and whatever, take what you like and leave the rest. If something doesn't resonate, don't take it on. It's all good. This conversation with Steve Nobel. Steve is the best-selling author of The Soul Matrix. He is a teacher and meditation and course creator on Insight Timer, where I am as well. I found his meditations years ago and have had him on here numerous times. I love Steve. I appreciate his incredible connection to the divine and to the higher realms. And I know you're going to enjoy this conversation. I want to remind you that if you are one of my viewers on YouTube, make sure, thank you, and leave comments. I love to hear, what are you sensing, noticing, insights? Please head on over there and we will both be responding and share what you're noticing. I also want to share that if you haven't yet signed up for my newsletter, I'm going to be changing things around in the year to come, sending 2 newsletters a month at the most, as well as a little quick weekly reminder about the podcast. Do sign up so you can become one of my insider friends and I can share with you. You'll be first to know about programs, retreats, events, and things that I'm doing and that others are doing that I think you would love that will help you on your journey. Go to julieriesler.com. All of my information is there. I also will be starting my next intuitive life designer coach certification. If you're interested, feel free to reach out. If you do decide to join, do that before January 1st. You'll get $1,000 off. And as always, my dear friend, thank you for being part of this journey with me. May you always follow the light of your You-est you. It is such an honor, Steve, to bring you back on the You-est you podcast. And I actually wanted to dedicate this conversation to a dear friend. Her name is Patricia Moreno. It's going to make me cry. She passed away about 4 years ago. She and I both talked one night, almost all night, about you. You and I are now both on Insight Timer, the mindfulness and meditation app, and you have many other courses and things in the world. But when you were on there, I would listen to you and she would listen to you. And we literally spent the evening talking about you and your beautiful, powerful meditations and just your ability to connect with the higher realms, with the divine at the deepest level. So I want to dedicate this conversation to Patricia, who is with us in spirit. She's a beautiful soul who inspired and changed many, many lives. She's here with us. I can feel her. And I just want to say thank you for coming back. I always love these conversations, and I know this is going to bless everyone. Thank you.
Pleasure. Oh, pleasure. Nice to see you again. You look younger.
I'll take it. I'm just about entering the 5th decade portal.
Ooh,
and it's only a number. Yes. It's a good, what do they say? 5? I think 5 is connected with Archangel Michael. So I'm going to go with it.
Okay.
Go with it. Yeah.
Excellent.
So I think one of the things that I've always loved about any of your meditations, the programs you do, like it feels like you are tapping in to something that we are all looking to feel and experience. And maybe you could we start a little bit with, what have you been tapping into recently? Like I'm kind of going right there, Steve. we're not like warming you up or anything. It's, this is coming out as we are about to enter into 2025 and then going forward. And whenever anyone listens to this, I know, it'll resonate. There's a lot of change and shift happening. What are you feeling, sensing? What are you getting through your intuitive guidance and channeling? And what do you think is happening? Can you share
Um,
what's happening on a larger level?
the duality of this world is becoming more apparent. The light and darkness of the world is becoming more noticeable. So, for example, we're approaching Christmas, so the lighter part of me is going, "Hey, Christmas! Let's do some Christmas spirit. Let's uplift, and let's do some, affirmations and some." So, I'm creating a track around Christmas, which is a beautiful time. It's a time, goodwill, hope, benevolence, and celebration. Not commercialism. I mean, yes, that's around, but hey, I went recently to a very big shop in London called Fortnum and Mason's, and it's just like inner child paradise. I'm just like, wow, look at all this baubles, and I mean, and it's elegant and expensive and elegant. Anyway, so that's the one side. The other side, I'm noticing more, as I have been for a while, the darker elements, the kind of more hidden in the shadows elements of the world that are becoming more apparent because of the light impacting the planet. The more light that comes in, harder it is for darkness to hide. And darkness is anything anti-light, anything, any agenda, anti-human, anti-planet. I mean, at one level, it could be, let's make a quick buck and who cares who gets hurt. But there are deeper levels to that, more sinister levels. So as I'm creating, I'm downloading this Christmas track. And on the other side, I got in meditation one morning about I got shown something which I think I've heard people talk about: master tracks of music, TV programs, and films and video games being taken into satanic ritual and infused with this dark energy. So anyone who listens to it, because I often wondered, how is it possible that these things can be infused with dark vibrations? And then I got, it's taken into satanic rituals. So you can infuse a film with darker vibrations, even if that film seemed of lighter content. The feel of it will not be what you're looking at. There'll be a disconnect. There'll be like, what? It's a bit heavier and darker. And I noticed that about a decade ago when I had a favorite TV sci-fi program that I suddenly had to stop watching it. It just suddenly felt like a dark vibration of it. So I just switched it off. I've been watching it for years and I switched it off. I won't mention it because it's not fair, really. So I noticed there are films coming out carrying a light vibration, things like Avatar, wonderful, the Interstellar, these kind of very beautiful, lighter, where the vibration of the future is infusing those films. And then there are some films which are kind of dystopian and a bit like, someone's had a bad dream. And I like Blade Runner, but Blade Runner is another one of those dystopian films type of thing. And then there are ones which are definitely darker vibes, like I might see a film and I come out going, whoa, that I just have to clear myself and feel heavy, clear myself of all this heavy vibes. So at the moment, I feel this duality, the light and dark, becoming more apparent. I think whereas 2012 was a choice point for humanity, a lot of people thought, I actually had conversations where people thought 2012 we'd be in the new age, everyone would be singing and dancing, and I just sat in disbelief with, I think this was around the time of before the invasion of Iraq and all of that. I said, do you really think, this was a few years before 2012, that when we hit 2012, all that's going to be healed? Because there's no way. And they were like, no, it was this kind of positivity. No, of course, 2012 is going to sort everything out. It was a choice point where humanity had to choose, do we go down the light path or the dark path? And the humanity, as far as I know, chose the light path. Now, this year, 2024, I really feel is the pivotal year. Actually, I didn't really know, but until I hit the 8-8 portal this year was so strong and so powerful. And I feel myself and a lot of people I know are going through all these massive shifts. And I think it was that Lionsgate portal. That was the moment. And I think now we're in a whole new period of time where the light is rapidly increasing and darkness is on the retreat. So this kind of splitting of light and dark is going to get more apparent. And I think in the lives of those people who've chosen the spiritual path, the reality is splitting even more. I mean, we had the split with the global lockdown where people were either following the path of, I'm going to follow my inner guidance, or I'm going to follow the fearful mass propaganda that's being put out. And so that was a kind of split. And there are other splits happening now where do we follow our own path, or do we follow those who are following the fearful 3D media, 3D whatever, or the conventional? I know before we talked on this about there are cults which are clearly of the light, and there are cults which are clearly of the dark. And, people just lump everything under the word cult. My ex-wife used to say to me, Steve, what cult are you in now? She was kind of horrified that I would be finding all of these different teachings. Whereas someone who's in a religion, they don't need to do that. They've got the book, they've got the priest, and they're just told and they accept it. They don't question it. I'm always questioning. I'm always questioning even what I believe now. Is it true? How do I know it's true? There've got to be signs. There's got to be evidence. There's got to be something in the world that shows me actually that is true for me now. And it's not that, I kind of have all kinds of ideas, but as many spiritual teachers and channels do. But how do we know which is the truth? I think the reality is a feedback system. When we put things into practice and they work, I think we mentioned earlier forgiveness as a practice. When it works, then okay, this is not woo-woo, someone has just made this up to make me feel good. It actually shifts things. Now, I give you an example of that one particular. I kind of call it surrendering to the light, surrendering an issue to the light. I had an issue very recently. Again, my life's been shaken up quite strongly, where I was badly let down by a particular company in my business. Badly. It cost me a lot of money, cost me a lot of heartache. I actually went to Bali recently in September, and the day before I went to Bali, this company screwed up badly. And so while I was in Bali, I was kind of enjoying Bali and also messaging back going, can you help me, to my IT angel, can you help me sort out all this screw up? I came back and it was just like, I just said to them, what you did was not okay. And they said, oh, we're sorry about that. We'll give you a £70 voucher. And I just felt, there are some things you've got to stand up for. So I just said, look, I'm going to take you to court unless you give me something much more. But I surrendered it to the light at the same time because I don't want to go to court particularly. I don't want to waste my time in court. But I just felt, this is not on what they're doing. And within a day or so, they came back going, we agree to everything you've asked us. They just was really nice about it. And I said, that's great. I like your company. You did screw up, but I want to stay with you. And so it was sorted. And there are other things which we can surrender to the light and they get sorted. Difficulties in relationships and stuff like that. So, that's just one example of something that actually practically can work. I'm just mentioning it because we talked about that beforehand. And there are many other things that we try out. Well, I hear this thing. Does it work? Let's try it out in reality in my life. It works. I'll keep doing it. Or I hear something, doesn't work. I put it in a file. Maybe it will work later, or maybe it will never work. So I think it's good to be pragmatic as well as open and experimental. So light and dark is expanding and getting more, separated.
This is such a great jumping off place. My brain is firing. Many neurons are firing at the same time. There's so many areas we can go into with this, and I know we were chatting beforehand, and I was sharing, one of the things that's really helped support me, and I know many others, is the Course in Miracles, which was channeled by Helen Schuckman, supposedly, Jesus' intentions and teachings, not from necessarily a religious standpoint, because it definitely takes out all of the aspects that have anything to do with, I think, actually, what it does around guilt is it shines it to the light with forgiveness. And you mentioned that. And I think, Steve, it's just so interesting when you said, what is the truth? And I can imagine, for our family community listening, sometimes it can feel confusing. Like, what do I believe? And one of the things I heard you say, and I think I heard you say, and I feel as well, is we have a guidance system. We have an inner guidance system. But what I love with the Course, with these teachings, is anything that I don't like or agree with, including things that I've done within myself that I'm upset about, everything going through the cycle of forgiveness, everything. And to me, and I'm curious what you think, and to look at this a little bit more, because what you're saying really rings true. We are really seeing the duality that, in my humble opinion, Steve, tell me what you think, but that's the teachings that I've been following and always felt, is that the divine God the irony is completely non-dualistic, purely non-dualistic. So we're seeing the duality, but in reality, that's not really who we are or what God is. And so how do we make sense of that in this world? How do we stay grounded and shine light? Because once light comes into darkness, there's that darkness dissipates.
Mm.
I'm just curious your thoughts on that. Also, I'd love to go into the soul matrix, what that means. I want to talk about star seeds. But I just have a feeling, I say this all the time, like attracts like. Anyone that's here with us loves you, hopefully is loves this show and these conversations and wants to bring light and wants to be the light. So, what are ways that we can, what would you say? And what have you noticed in your channeling, in your meditations, in your work? What's coming up around being a light keeper, being somebody who can stay in that non-dualistic place, but also it's like, I guess what my understanding of the teaching is, I believe Jesus said this, right? Be in the world, but not of the world. That's what
Yeah.
comes to mind.
Be in the
Curious.
world, but not of the world. It's
Yeah.
totally the way we should be, really.
Let's talk
So,
about that. How do we do
well,
that?
the course we mentioned a few times talks a lot about. I mean, it gives a higher truth. It also talks about the ego, and how do we know when we're moving through the world, when we hear something, is this of ego, or is this something of our higher self? Our higher aspect of ourself, and the ego will resist the truth, and it does this not because it's bad or it's set up to just be against the truth, but we're born in this. I have this kind of idea: 3D, 4D, 5D, which are just different vibrational levels. This world is a 3D world. It's kind of dualistic, us versus them. Who's to blame? Who's at fault? If you want to know what a 3D world is, read the newspaper, and then you know what it is. That will tell you. Or
Yes.
one of the news channels. I don't really know about America so much. I don't know if Fox News or whatever those ones are, but you get
Yeah.
this is the truth. They're telling you the truth. It's basically a load of opinion. Now, the ego is not bad, but as a 3D ego, we grow up in the 3D world, and the ego is developed as a protection system and also a guidance system to guide us through a difficult world. And it it does it through various layers of defenses and avoidance and all of the things it normally does. When we start to awaken, we start to shift in vibration to a 4D, which is more opening to psychic gifts, to chakras, to other lifetime, to this whole spiritual world. The ego, or the personality selves parts, which is a kind of gestalt of energy inside of us, goes, eek, we have no map for what you are trying to do. Therefore, we are going to stop you because we think it's dangerous. And so the ego will resist it because it's afraid of it. It doesn't understand it, and it will block you and sabotage you every which way. And the ego, which contains all of our fears, our guilts, our confusions, our doubts, our belief systems, our stories, all of it, also our drives and ambitions, all of that will be in there. It's a bit like having a boat in a harbor, and the higher self says, take your boat and sail out into that sea and go find the land across the sea. And your ego's going, no, let's move the boat from one side of the harbor to the other where the sun's nicer. Then we've changed our lives. That's the kind of, a lot of people do that in personal development. Hey, I've changed my life. But
Steve.
basically, they've just changed their boyfriend or their girlfriend or their house. They
Yes.
haven't changed anything.
I just had that dream last night, side note. I cannot believe I'm sorry. Like I had that dream about the boat and not wanting to go out to sea. And then it finally did. Anyhow, keep going. We are onto something, but keep
Yeah.
going. Yeah.
Of course, our personalities are scared of the sea. The sea's dangerous, where the harbor's nice. We've got cafes and, it's all safe and anchored and we know the neighbors. But the higher self says, get out of your familiarity zone because the adventure is beyond that. And the more rigid the ego, the more we will resist. But eventually the higher self should have its way when it, as we're taking out the guilt or whatever the primary resistance pattern, and it could be guilt, it could be confusion, it could be duty, but my family is a big one for a lot of people. Or it could be, money, I'm afraid of money, I can't go out there. If I leave my corporate job and do this woo-woo journey, what will happen to, I've been through all of that. Family, money, I've been through all of these layers. So the ego will go on the journey, initially kicking and screaming. Doesn't want to go on the journey, but will go on the journey. And once it's out to sea, it starts to relax a bit, going, okay, the sea's calm. We are not falling off the edge of the world, as they used to believe, all of those kind of things. It relaxes. So it starts to relax in your 4D environment. And maybe you land on the other landscape on the other side. It's a new terrain. It might get a bit scared again, but it is a process of relaxation over and over again. The ego to me is a bit like having some inner children that don't understand the adult world and are banging at the door going, no, we don't want to leave. We don't want to go. And we don't throw them out the room. Some parents might do that. We actually hug them and go, it's okay. It's all right. I'm with you. We're going to be okay. And the ego relaxes and the ego becomes an ally. I'm not quite sure if the course talks so much about that aspect, but I have met teachers who were in the course who actually realize now that is another progression. The ego relaxes and the ego becomes an ally of the higher self. And in a way, this twin flame journey to me partly is not about the romance so much. It's about unifying our lower energy bodies, minds, with our higher. And then there's a unification. And actually, the cross isn't ever. We've talked about Christianity a little bit before, but the cross is an ancient symbol that predates Christianity. To me, the cross is the descending light and the ascending light. So Gaia, the ascending light, and the energy descending onto the planet now through the stargate of our sun and the stars coming down. And there's the horizontal pillar, which is the unification of our opposites, our anima, animus, our conscious mind, unconscious mind. So the cross is a unification. It's not, and it's been. I mean, the crucifixion was a kind of distortion of a sacred image. Of the cross, sacred cross. So that cross, we are here to unify the higher mind with the lower mind. We're here to embrace our guilt, our doubts, our confusion, our limiting belief system. We all have limits. Every area of our life contains limits. We have limits to love, limits to joy, limits to what we can manifest, limits to all of those things. It's natural. And our job is to expand all those limits, to go out in our boat and expand the territory, expand what we know is possible. And gradually our whole reality starts expanding. So my reality before I woke up was very limited and very small. I was a family man with 2 children, chauffeuring everyone around, running around. Now, my life is, my grandkids go, Granddad, they're stealing my crystals. I've got 4 granddaughters and they steal my crystals. Well, they ask, and I go, all right, have them. They come in. I've got four granddaughters now. So, and they look at my YouTube channel and go, well, Granddad, you're out there. A bit weird, Granddad, you're out there. My daughter, who's in her 40s now, she's like, Dad, what are you up to? And my son doesn't even ask. But we love them. I love them. They love me. But they're looking at me, at my journey, and they go, we don't know where our granddad's going with all of this. He seems to be sailing further out than we know. But that's all right, because I'm sailing out there. I was born in the 1950s. So I'm kind of in the grandfather area. And so now I'm kind of in the kind of elder years. And so my idea is to turn around and actually say to people, look, I've had these adventures. I've had this exploration. I've listened to all these teachers. I've sat at the feet of all these teachers. I've heard the wisdom. I've put it in my own life. I've seen what works. I can share some of that with you guys. And that's the whole point. We don't spend a life doing the journey. At the end of it, go, well, that was a good journey. Boom, off we go. At some point, we turn around and we have to share it with people. We have to, go, this is, I'm holding a torch for where, you guys, and I'm waving it, and people are eternally grateful. I get so many messages daily about, and I get 1 or 2 of the opposite messages, of course. We always do get those. But most people, I'm so grateful I found you. Thank you. Because I am giving what I wanted most when I was younger. Someone I could trust, someone who could show me a whole spectrum of ideas and techniques and meditations. And I'm not saying this is the one way. I'm saying here's a spectrum. Try out which way is for you. And I think that's my own philosophy, basically. And I hope I've answered a little bit. I don't think I've answered everything you asked me, but you have to ask me again.
No, it's I love it. And something actually clicked in a way that's never clicked for me before. You said something, and I'm going to say this out loud because it shifts the energy around the ego, right? So it makes sense if we're in this 3D world. You don't have to look far to find that. That's like don't worry. If you're worried or wondering where the 3D is, you've been raised in it. Like we've been raised in it. It's here. And what I sense and just have this feeling, all of us that are awakening, that are wanting to bring more light, which was perhaps really starting in that 2012 period, but even before. And again, anyone, if you're listening, you're it too. You wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here with Steve and I, or on Steve's channel, or you just wouldn't. But I love what you said, and something clicked, is that, wait a minute, the ego was set up. It's kind of like, you don't get upset with a 3-year-old for sticking their finger in a socket when they don't understand it. You would pull them and say, are you okay? And hug them. But the ego is not what is here to get us into the fourth dimension, the fifth, like into God consciousness, into the all loving divine mind. It's just not, it's not the vehicle. It almost reminds me of, like, if you're going to try to drive from one end of the country, the States, in, a scooter, the scooter might help you get to one state, maybe, or a moped, but it's going to be really hard to do an entire trip across country. Now, maybe you have done it, but I would not want to do that on a moped or in a, car that's about to fall apart. So we don't want to, it gave me this great image, and I wanted to share that we don't want to blame it, or, we don't want to hate it, because it served some purpose, but it's not the vehicle. It's not the vehicle to get us into the ocean, to get us into the new territories. And, that's where, for me at least, for me, I've come up through a lot of the 12-step programs as well, and Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes, and then, the course. And it's like, all of this is about reconnecting to the divine, to this one God consciousness. And we all have the GPS for it. We actually do. So your kids are like, what are you doing in this boat? But you're like, hey, I'm fine. What I love about your story, Steve, is you're not condemning them. They're not, it's like, yeah, we're in different boats. We're in different parts of the sea.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It's okay. Yeah. That's all right.
Well, the ego is all the parts of us in 3D we think we are. The child self, the dreamer self, the academic self, the couch potato self, all of these parts of us, the husband, the boss, the I'm an achiever, or I'm a failure, all of those parts of us. And the yin, the yang, the extrovert, the introvert parts, we have all of these things, and we don't ditch them. It's almost like, yes, they are protection programs, but they can all be upgraded like a computer program. You don't smash the computer, you just upgrade the software. And these are all software packages that can be upgraded now, because we have new tools. We have angelic light, which is a lot of what I do on meditation. Angelic light is one thing. So we have wisdom, we have techniques to upgrade, and we have techniques to speak to these parts. We have techniques to integrate them. We have all kinds of things now. And so they all get upgraded. So the inner child, for example, which is everyone has inner child. And when I talk about inner child, I'm talking about the wounded, conditioned, frozen parts of us that didn't really grow up because we were wounded and we stopped. Those parts have got frozen, or adolescent parts have got frozen. We have to reclaim those parts because it's part of our light, and bring them, defrost them and bring them up with us. Because, I've got a fabulous inner child, or set of inner children now, because behind the wounded children are the magical ones. And my kids say to me, Dad, you're just a big kid, and I am. I used to climb trees and climb rocks and just do kiddie things. And my adolescent got really had a hard time. I spent a while reclaiming it. Now, I might dance to YouTube or do things. My little granddaughter says, Granddad, chase me. She's on a scooter. And I run down the road chasing her, and she thinks it's hysterical. Because, and a lot of the things I didn't do as a teenager, go to music concerts. I kind of would go here and there, not a lot of them. And so I can reclaim things. I'm listening to music now that I would have listened to in my adolescent years. Roxy music I listened to just before this. I put on some Roxy music of the 70s and all of this. So you can reclaim it, and it's very joyful and fun. It doesn't have to be heavy. When we heal these parts, and when we unify them, when we unify the yin and the yang parts of us, it creates a genius in us. When we unify the logical and the intuitive, there's a genius in it, because we shouldn't run just on one or the other. It creates I've met a lot of people who are just in their heads logical, and a lot of people are totally imaginative and intuitive, and neither really are really effective in the world. You need both. And we need all these aspects of ourselves. So we don't leave anything behind. None of our light we should leave behind. None of our personality we leave behind. Everything should be reclaimed. Everything should be upgraded. Everything should be loved and brought into wholeness, really. That's just my feeling.
Beautiful. And it really goes to what we were saying, I'm a big believer what you see on the outside is it's mirroring on the inside. So we're seeing an extreme duality. And how do we shift from duality to non-duality is by loving all of those parts of ourselves. Because what you were saying, what was clicking is, oh, that's duality within ourselves. When I don't love or use parts of myself because I've condemned them or I'm ashamed of them or I feel guilty, it's so interesting. This is like the last thing I wanted to do. I did an episode on shadow work and rejection. For many of us who've gotten sucked into the laws of attraction, I'm not saying laws of attraction are a real thing, but there's sometimes teachings around manifestation and laws of attraction that can bring fear. Like if I say this, I'm going to manifest it. And I don't believe in that. It's just, it's actually, for me, the truth is it felt so freeing and like so much more wholeness to look at these parts and not be scared that I'm going to manifest more of it, but actually, no, those are little children or parts of me that, parts of you that want to be healed and loved. And I love that shift. I believe that to be true. Absolutely true.
Well, the shadow work, Jung was genius, talking. He was the one that came out with the shadow. And he said there's a golden shadow and a dark shadow, and the golden shadow is all of our gifts we jettison, all of the bits of us which is too much for people. So we get rid of it, our creativity, too much or whatever. And the darker bits might be our anger or sexuality or things which we feel we're condemned for in a different way. They seem like they're dark or evil or whatever we classify them as. I mean, our primal energy is anger and sexuality. They're primal. And in our societies, these energies are considered dangerous and difficult, and there's all kinds of labels put on them. But we have to embrace them because otherwise we're not running on our whole energy. So doing the shadow work, recalling back the things that we judge, and we can do it in the outer world. So if people judge Trump or judge Putin or whoever, or people, the boss or mother-in-law, whoever you judge is reflecting an aspect of shadow that we can't tolerate. And I remember actually a Jewish friend, he was very upbeat, very positive, very go, And I noticed about him that he would attract people that were fearful and were doubtful, and he would attack them in personal development seminars because they represented parts of him that he could not tolerate. And so I never was able to tell him this, but basically he had to, and he was far too yang. Actually, I think people were put off by his yangness. And if he'd only embraced some of that vulnerability, he would have toned it down and been much more whole in himself and much more effective. So, and I see in a lot of people, I see people who disown their child. They're, serious adults. And I see children around them crying, and it disturbs them terribly. If someone has disowned their wounded child, a crying child will be very disturbing to someone like that. Or a wounded adolescent, an adolescent with their trousers. We see them around where we must see them in America. Their trousers hanging partly down, and people get really judgmental. I mean, I think it's ridiculous personally, but the people would even, from a practical point of view, why would you want your trousers hanging around your knees practically? But anyway, I think if you want to do it, hey, it's okay with me. So we have to embrace all those parts that we judge the fiercest, because when we're pointing a finger, we are also making sure those parts of us stay well in the shadow. So it's a good process and I think Byron Katie, the work, she's very good at doing in a different way through questioning, embracing what we consider to be evil or outcast, and she's very good at embracing those things. And any really good spiritual practice will include the shadow. And unfortunately, most religious practices exclude it. They consider this is godly and this is sin and this is hell. And we talked about Aramaic earlier, and it's interesting, in Aramaic, there's no word for hell. So it's which is the language Jesus spoke. So it's very, very hard to understand, well, maybe not so hard. How did the word come in, which was never originally spoken, into something which is supposed to be about his teachings? There is no word for hell. So why is hell such a central feature of Catholic church, particularly Catholic Church, and being used as a tool of fear. You don't want to go to hell, so you have to obey what we're saying. It's just a very fear-based tool, really. I don't believe. Actually, I met a guy called Matthew Fox. He was a Catholic priest. He wrote a book called Original Blessings, which said we're born in original blessings. He was
Beautiful.
excommunicated
Mm.
for going against the teachings of the church. He now is a very amazing, charismatic speaker in America. Matthew Fox, do check him out. Original Blessings. And there are these great guys in the church who tried to reform the church, but the church being very rigid, and the current church is very rigid, Catholic Church, and holds, I would say, quite a bit of darkness. A lot of good people in the church, but it holds darkness. This is why I think a lot of people awakening spiritually have to leave the church, have to leave those very rigid religious structures, because it doesn't leave you any room to expand. You can't sail your boat out to the sea in those structures. They would not let you go there.
Yeah, for most, and I know some who listen who might be in a church and can do both, but I think what you're saying, Steve, and actually, I was just thinking about my understanding of the word sin in Aramaic is missing the mark, which is very different than how we look at it. Yeah, I'm always like, well, we're meant to miss the mark because we're human. We're learning. It's okay. We're here to learn. I want to ask you, I've never really dove into the golden shadow. And I'm like, that is interesting. It lit up for me. And also you mentioned bringing in angelic light. And because we can go into the dark shadows as well. I've been doing episodes on that. However, what I heard was many of you listening, and sometimes myself too, the golden shadow are gifts. I believe Marianne Williamson, who's been on here, I love her, her quote about what do we fear most is our beauty, our gifts, our talents. Can we talk for a minute about, I just have this feeling, and maybe there'll be a meditation at the end, maybe not, but something around the golden shadow, and how do we bring in the angelic light for any and all shifting in consciousness and enlightenment? Like, how do you feel it and see that angelic light? And I know you do a lot with that. So I'll let you go wherever you want to go. I just want to share this really quickly. You've probably noticed that one of the most fast growing industries out there is the life coaching industry. I want to say something to you. Life coaching at its core, when you have the knowledge, the core competencies, the training, is sacred, powerful healing work. I got a certification and master's degree in coaching over 15 years ago, and it has changed my life, and it has changed hundreds of clients that I've worked with and the hundreds of students that I have taught. If you are feeling a soul nudge to do more to help others to unlock their potential, their highest potential, i.e. being your You-est, and learn how to do that for yourself, I highly encourage you to consider my Intuitive Life Designer Coach Academy. It is a premier certification program. We're starting up again in January. Please go to julieriesler.com/certification. You can upload the program details. Let me know if you have questions. Everything is listed there. I would love to have you, if you're leaning in, if it's a soul yes, if you feel like you really want to do more to help people to stand into their highest calling, then I encourage you to look into the Intuitive Life Designer Coach program. You also can weave this in your work, in your industry now. I've had many lawyers and doctors and teachers, psychologists, other coaches that have done other programs, but felt they were missing the grounding, the integrity of the coaching program. You will have a practicum, mentor coaches, and we meet twice a week for 4 months with me as your coach and guide and mentor. And it would just be an honor to help you and to work with you on your journey to be your You-est as an intuitive life designer coach. Again, go to julieriesler.com/certification. And again, if it's a soul yes, I'd be honored to guide you in this next 12th cohort.
So when I was doing regular coaching years ago, I noticed something that almost universally the clients I saw didn't recognize their gifts and their talents, which was more obvious on the outside. And even if they were kind of told, hey, you've got this gift, you've got that, they would tend to resist it. I found that universally before I even came to this work. And it was really interesting. I remember one person, and he was kind of like really floundering. And I said, you've got a great gift of mediation. You can talk people down from violence and things like that. It was kind of, and his answer was, I still remember it was about 20 years ago. He told me this. He said, yes, but everyone can do that. And I said, no, everyone can't do that. You can do it. I can't actually do what you can do. I'm not interested in talking people down for violence. I'll do something else, but I'm not gonna sit there try to reason with people who are kind of trying to be violent. So he had that gift, and he eventually did. He did embrace it, and he did start using it, and he did go down that timeline of accessing that gift. So with the golden shadow, I'll give another example. Creativity is a common one that I've found. I've met a number of people that have disowned their creativity from a young age. And there's various reasons. The parents may not have agreed with it. The parents may get upset with it. The parents may say, you're wasting your time. And so they disown it. And then what happens with that disowning is, from a young age, is that those people, when they come to a spiritual awakening, tend to then be seeking that creative spark in their journey. And I know one person who's was so brilliant at creativity that a teacher came to see the parents one night and just said, your daughter is so talented, send her to art school. The father was a surgeon, the mother was a teacher of English language, and they went, absolutely no way, no way. She went and did an economics degree, someone talented in. And I've met many people like that, and I've known a few accountants. Actually, another guy who trained in accountancy was in the City of London. Now, if you met him, you would never know. He's kind of writing songs and trying to reclaim what he lost years ago. And he's on that journey. And he's still on the journey, reclaiming. And I said to him, this is life and death for you, isn't it, this journey? And it is really life and death for him, because it's something that's been so important, it's been jettisoned. So for me, in my family growing up, I had perhaps an easier route, because I was very drawn to alternative stuff, spiritual stuff, sci-fi stuff, alternative stuff. My family said no. Bewitched. I don't know if I mentioned this before. I love Bewitched. My father turned it off, said not suitable. You're not watching this stuff. And my mother, actually, I used to be left-handed, and I didn't realize, but she changed it to the right hand. I always wondered why I found it a bit difficult. And I asked her later in life, I said, did you change the way I wrote? She said, oh, yes, because it was sinister. You know, the sinistra in Italian is left, is sinister. Left-handed people are sinister. There's all these stupid, ridiculous things, because the left hand is accessing the right brain, whereas here I'm accessing this side. And I just said, but that's so ridiculous. But anyway, okay, this is what you did. All right, fine. And so I was blocked. My marriage blocked me. No spirituality, not having any of that here. No, we're Catholic. And so I spent probably a good number of years being blocked until it really burst. I've got to find this path. I don't know what it is, and I had to find this path, which I've been on now for half my life. Just slightly more than half my life on this path. So but the first half was like, no. And the second half was like, the brakes were on and now the accelerator's on. And it is common for a lot of people to actually be blocked in an area that's important for them. And they've chosen it deliberately before birth, going, well, if I come into this family that actually blocks me from doing X, then it builds up the tension for me eventually to do it. I don't know if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
A lot of people who want to learn about abundance go into families with a lot of scarcity consciousness. So they go into the opposite. A lot of people who really value freedom, which is a very common value amongst starseeds, go into families that totally limit them and put them in boxes. So this is the way you must think, this is the way you must be. And so we experience limitation in order to go, this is what limitation is, and this is what the opposite is. So the golden shadow is banned because it's been disapproved of, considered dangerous, and it's been jettisoned into our deep unconscious. And the journey of the spirituality is holding a light down there and going, okay, come on, come back. It's okay now. And that part goes, I don't think so. And we're just going, no, it really is okay. And you slowly coax it back so that it's more in your life. So now there are areas still that I know I've not completely, totally brought back. I'm bringing them back, and there's still areas where like, no, we're not really sure that it's okay. And It's the way it's part of the work of the awakening journey. The shadow will come in, and the ego is the opposition of the shadow. The ego is the protection, because the ego, as I said, is a protection mechanism. It says, no, these things are not safe. We are keeping them out. So to give you an example of the dark shadow, someone who's had their anger completely disowned because it's dangerous. I remember a friend of mine used to have, it was super sweet. This is a sign of someone with real anger, super sweet. You go, there's something not right here. Where's your anger gone? They are super sweet ego personalities keeping that anger. No, not, we're just going to be super sweet, super nice, people pleasing. And when they bring the anger back, there eventually is a kind of shifting that the people pleasing goes. Not that we become horrible people. We still want to make people happy in that, but it's balanced with our own needs, because anger has boundaries. This is my anger. I put boundaries down. No anger, no boundaries. It's another sign. People with no boundaries, they've disowned their anger usually. So I don't know if that answers you with the shadow. The ego and the shadow are opposite, but eventually they have to make friends. They have to be friends, just like the ego and the higher self. Angelic light, angels are. I heard a channel say this. I think it was Bashar say, and this is one of the things I did agree with him. He said angels are the first reflection of God or goddess. All it is, they're the first reflection. We are not the first reflection. We are down here having eaten of the tree of good and evil and experiencing all of those fruits, in 3D, which is what eat the fruit was. Go and explore 3D of the garden. Get out of the Garden of Eden. Go and explore, pain of childbirth and the pain of toiling the earth and all of that. That's in the Bible. I guess you've read all those bits. I don't know if you have. Like God cast them out of Eden and cursed them. And all of that. That was the eating of the fruit of good and evil. So now we've eaten that. We want to come back. Now, angelic light is coming forward at this time of ascension, this time of shift into light. And these angels are really blueprint holders of various kinds. Every soul quality has an angel. Joy, love, all of these things have angels holding the blueprint. Our own 5D body template, divine template, has an angel overlighting the new template, which we're shifting into, because we're leaving the old 3D template of, we die. I think we're going to have much more longevity further along the path. I think also that we're going to less be eating the way we eat. We'll be eating more light as well as physical. We need to absorb more prana, because a 5D body needs more light. It can't survive on McDonald's. It can't survive on the crap we're feeding it. It will die. But it can survive. I eat a lot less these days because I'm absorbing light, much more light. But I don't stop eating because I like eating. I eat far less. So angelic light can be used to clear karmic patterns, which we brought in from other lifetimes. We don't have to experience the karma, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. That's the karma. We don't have to do that. We can actually go, you know what? I've learned the lesson, because karma contains lessons. Once we get the lesson, we don't have to go through the suffering of it. I realize it was not good to tell lies. So I don't have to have people lying to me to get, I get now it's not good to tell lies. I get it. I'm sorry. I've done it. I can use the angelic fire to clear all of my levels of my being and the Akashic records. So it's not like the shortcut to, we can't clear things that we haven't learned. We can't clear things the higher self says there's still juice in it. But we can clear things which is not necessary, which is redundant. A lot of suffering is meaningless. We can just burn it away and clear it. And that's the kind of a lot of the meditations. Burn a lot of this old karma away. Persecution karma, betrayal karma, abandonment karma, they're all very core programming. Fear of shining our light is a karmic program, because we've been killed in other lifetimes for shining our light. So now we're afraid. All of these things can be burnt and cleared. I don't know if that's is that sufficient.
Yeah, no, and if we have time, if you're open to it, maybe we do a angelic light. That's what I'm hearing, like an angelic light clearing. It's interesting. I keep coming back to, I think it's just been so instrumental for me with the Course in Miracles. One of the things it says is that the only thing that really exists is our, God and us as emanations. We're all one of the same thing, right? Our soul is infinite. We are all from the one. And the way we hear that is through, they use the term Holy Spirit, intuition. I even got this impression that angelic light could be part of how we connect to the all that is in us. And I think it's important because even when we look at karma or things that we've done, that's where we started the conversation with this, Steve, was, to me, what I'm experiencing is the portal to wholeness is through love and forgiveness. It's just simple, but not easy. Like loving all of ourselves, every part of yourself, the part that you feel shame or guilt about, and then bringing in forgiveness. I love this idea. Even when you were talking about, the Garden of Eden being, to me, my understanding, my feel is, that's the separation, right? The separation consciousness, which is the duality. It goes to what we were saying earlier, and to forgive ourselves and to forgive that, because the reality is a oneness of love that I think many of us are just wanting to taste, that's here. And so what I'm hearing is the angelic light and the clearing. It's like clearing out the debris so we can feel this oneness that is our inherent birthright. That's kind of what I'm getting. And for me, that's what I have found so healing. And that's embracing our golden, our dark shadow, all of ourselves, all of the inner children within us. And yeah, I appreciate the way you're explaining and sharing about it. Before, or if we have time to do a meditation, I just wanted to ask you, because you mentioned it earlier about star seeds, and I know we've talked about it before, but for somebody who's listening who's like, I think I'm a star seed, I don't know. Can you give like a really brief overview of star seeds and like how do you know if you are one?
So in the Bible, Jesus quoted, "In my Father's mansion there are many rooms," which I heard that, I thought, who cares? What difference does it make? And I never understood that, but now I understand it as many dimensions, many spaces that we can incarnate in, and the soul is multidimensional, and we have these different rooms that we can go into, spaces, planetary systems, dimensions, and the Earth plane is just one of many rooms in this mansion, vast mansion. And in fact, the Earth plane itself has many dimensions, which is a bit mind-boggling, thinking, what, there's more than one possible Earth? That's kind of a bit mind-boggling for some people. But what I feel is there's ones of a higher vibration and ones of a lower. And, this is all part of where we choose to go. So where am I in this? Where was I talking about? I've lost the
Star
thread.
seeds,
Starseeds. Oh,
mansion.
yes. Starseeds are wander of souls. We've wandered through many, many dimensions, many different places. So when people come to the concept of starseed, they start asking, okay, where am I from? Am I from Pleiades? Am I from Sirius? Am I from Lyra? Am I from... And at the beginning, it's very hard to know because you've probably been through many systems, but some of them will resonate strongly. Now, just as a rule of thumb, the Pleiadian system is much more heart-based. And so people who have a strong Pleiadian resonance, which you may have, are more into the heart, into the loving path, which it sounds like you have a strong element of that. For another example, the Syrian system, which actually the avatar, I consider Jesus to be an avatar of of the planet, one of a few avatars. He came through the Syrian system, and the Syrian system actually has a school of ascended masters in the Syrian system. And a lot of ascended masters come through that system. And they're talking about love, for sure, but wisdom. They're bringing a deeper wisdom, and it's much more kind of wisdom-based and heart. Whereas the Pleiadian is very heart-based, very loving, and very, very much that way. And the Pleiadians actually seeded humanity. A long time ago, Pleiadian DNA is what makes all of humanity potentially starseeds, although a lot of souls here have forgotten because they've been here so long. They've forgotten that reincarnation cycle. They've just been here over and over again, over and over again. Whereas starseeds are coming in with a fresher energetic feel for the universe. And so they're the first ones to wake up. And so anyone listening to me would be a starseed. Otherwise, even if they're a closet one, they go, well, I'm not sure if I'm a starseed. I've sat with people like this. I'm not sure. They eventually kind of open up and they go, oh, okay, I know why I'm interested in you now. There's a kind of ego defenses plus a fascination. And so anyone who's not a starseed would just look at you and go, what is this trash? What is this rubbish? And I've been at parties where I don't bother answering, what's a starseed? I look at their energy. You know what? You just would not, there's no way I'd get them to understand. So I don't even answer the question. So the soul is multidimensional, lives many lifetimes, including in other dimensions. This planet is ascending from dark to light, and so starseeds are here to anchor the light. It's part of the mass awakening that I think this second coming is a mass awakening. It's not Jesus in one body; it's the cosmic Christ in many bodies. That avatar may come again. It's quite possible he may come again, but it may not. I don't really know. What I do think is that all of the religions on the planet are due for an upgrade, and they're going to not like it. They're going to go kicking and screaming, but all of them at some point will be upgraded to be more fluid, more light filled. And that's not apparent at the moment because all of them are kind of hunkering down, going, in this world of change, we have to keep the rigid teachings. But eventually there'll be new teachers, I think, which will enter those religions. I don't know when that will be, and they will bring a fresh understanding of the teachings. Actually, I left Christianity in my early 30s. I come back to it now in a different understanding because I've explored shamanism, Wicca. I've explored a whole range of things. And now I look at the avatar and I go, I understand more of what he's saying. Whereas I never understood it in the church. I couldn't understand what they were telling me. I feel a very strong connection to the avatar. Maybe I don't know what the connection is, but I feel a very strong connection. And I mentioned earlier before the podcast started that he planted a seed of light in a very, very dense world. And that seed is only now beginning to flourish. There have been other teachers before him that attempted to plant seeds of light that didn't quite work out. For example, Akhenaten in Egypt was another one who attempted to plant the seed of light, but it didn't work. It went wrong. The whole thing was kind of wiped out. But the seed planted by the Christ energy was very powerful, could not be stopped. And that's why dark forces decided not to stop the message, but to hijack it and to use it in their own way for war and conquest and all the rest, which we've seen over many years. That seed is now flowering. Starseeds are here to assist in the flowering. They're here to anchor the light. They're here to awaken their own energy fields because starseeds are in a way a light virus in a dark world. That's the way I see it. We're the light virus, infecting the world with a new energy of light, of hope, of faith, of trust, of love, of forgiveness, all these qualities which religion talks about, but is never really practiced properly. I don't think. You can't talk about these things, from the head. You have to go on the journey and go, you have to in my life, I've surrendered everything 2 or 3 times. I've let go of everything. You have to do these things to really understand what is the meaning of surrender. Otherwise, you can talk about it and never really know what it is. You have to be betrayed deeply to know, well, what is the energy of forgiveness? Can I do it? Now that I feel that deep betrayal or abandonment, all of these things, you have to go through that, and the journey will put you through those programs, the very things you don't want to go through to activate the things that you want to flourish in your life. So, that's not what a lot of teachers talk about, but it is the way, because it would put people off going on the path. But you will encounter the things you most don't want to encounter in order to find the things that you don't know is within you.
Beautifully said. I 100% agree. And what I'm experiencing as I'm coming up to the 5-0, the midpoint is woo, I just celebrating and oh my gosh, what's happening? But really, it's like I get this vision of we all have a very specific Earth curriculum. We are here in our own unique Earth curriculum because we've said yes to this incarnation, and those experiences that are really jarring or upsetting or challenging, that is where learning to bring in love and forgiveness, learning to forgive yourself, to me, that is like PhD level. That is, again, they say simple, not always easy, but that I agree with you that it's all here to be integrated. And so, I mean, I've seen it when I've pushed things away, pushed it down, used, addiction. It doesn't work. It comes back up. It stays in your cells. It stays in your consciousness. It stays in the subconscious. And maybe if we have time, Steve, I was just thinking we could I love this idea of this seed of light that was planted, and that now is the time for that light to flourish. And each and every one of you that is here, if you're still listening, thank you. And we love you. And I'm telling you, you're here for a reason. I really, I feel this, and I felt this call when I started this podcast. I felt this call when I found you and your work. I was like, there got to be others out there. I know there are that feel this something like it's an inner, like your pilot light is up and on. And it's like, okay, where and how can I be of service? How can I express light? Would you be willing? We could do a short just activation or meditation.
Let's do
like
something
that.
quick.
Yeah. You can light awakening, flourishing, whatever you want to call it, whatever comes to you.
Well, I get people to close their eyes and just have a breath and feel your heart. With your breath is the bridge between heaven and earth, body and spirit, the breath. Imagine that your in-breath can be an invitation of light into the physical body, light from the stars and the sun, the universe around you, into the bones and blood and cells and organs and systems of your body, light, so that your body can light up. And anywhere you're holding denser energies, heavier energies, or energies that don't belong to you, have absorbed on the out-breath, purge and release. Send it back to the universe. It doesn't belong to you. It should not be there. Allow more space in your body for your own soul's light. So the in-breath is the invitation of light, and the out-breath is the purging and releasing. It's a very good rhythm to have. Inviting light and purging lower energies. Imagine inviting light into the emotional body, any of the feeling body, any suffering you've taken on, anger you've taken on, fear you've taken on from the collective or your family that doesn't belong to you, should not be there. Give permission on the out-breath to purge and release, sending it back to the light. Allow more space in your emotional body for more joy and bliss, your own soul's light. Release the pain body. Embrace the bliss body. And also invite light into the lower mental body, your ego mind, of thoughts, feelings, judgments, anywhere you've been criticized or judged or blamed, or all your belief systems, some of them empowering, some not. Breathe light into that space in your body or your aura field. Light. And anywhere you're holding ideas or thoughts or beliefs or stories from anybody else that does not serve you, give permission to leave you now. It's not yours. It should be released. Jettison it. Purge it. Send it back to the universe to be transformed. Allow more light into the mental body. So light into the physical body, light into the emotional body, light into the lower mental body. There are other bodies, but for now, I just want to call archangels around you. And I work with 6 archangels. I just want you to get a feel of them quickly. In the East, I call Raphael, archangel of air, archangel of the mind, healer, magician, angel. The symbol of this angel is a crystal wand, and the energy of this angel is emerald green fire. As you allow the crystal wand to shine brightly in your mind, invite that emerald green fire into your field to hold your space. Raphael, healer, magician of the East, of the mind. And allow your mind to expand beyond all limits that do not serve you. And to the south is Michael, archangel of the element of fire, archangel of the sun. The symbol of this angel is a sword of flaming blue light, and the energy is electric blue fire. Allow that sword of angelic blue light to shine brightly in your mind. And as it does so, invite that fire of Michael to protect your field, protect your space from lower frequency energies, like a sphere of light around you, electric blue light, protecting you as you go about your day. To the west is Gabriel, archangel of water, messenger angel, angel of the dream time. The symbol of this angel is a silver chalice, and the energy is diamond white fire. Allow that silver chalice to shine brightly in your mind. As you do so, allow that fire to be hot, allow that fire to hold your space in light, especially the emotional body. And the fourth angel of the north is Uriel, archangel of earth, archangel of the body, of all physical structures. The symbol is a golden pentacle, a 5-pointed star in a circle of light. and the energy is ruby red fire. Invite that symbol to shine brightly in your mind. As you do so, allow ruby red fire to hold the space for angels, for energies. To the east, Raphael; to the south, Michael; to the west, Gabriel; to the north, Uriel. 4 angels holding you. There are 2 more angels I want to call of the vertical space. Metatron, of the great central sun that holds the cosmic Christ grid of white gold fire. Invite that white gold fire down through the stargate of our sun, down into the room, the floor, the walls, the ceiling, the doors, closing off the space, and down to the heart. Allow the cosmic Christ grid to anchor into your heart, allowing all chakras from the heart upwards to align with the great central sun. White gold fire, cosmic Christ grid, light impacting the planet, the descending light. Also to the below space, Sanderfon, of the crystalline grid of the earth, to bring up that new grid of the earth, 5D grid of light of the earth, ethereal white, up to the feet, grounding you, up to the legs, grounding you, up to the base and pelvic area and heart, grounding you. Anchoring into the heart, allow all chakras from the heart downwards to ground into the crystalline grid of the earth. 6 angels, 6 energies, and open, forming a kind of cross of vertical and horizontal energy. Many years ago, humanity left the garden. Lemuria was the Garden of Eden. There was a choice to leave that garden and descend into density. And you may have lived many lifetimes in density, experiencing density. Now the time of density is over. 2,000 years ago, Christ entered this density and planted a seed of light in the world itself, in the matrix of the world. That seed is flourishing in the grids impacting the world now, in the earth, in the energy of the sun descending. These 2 grids of earth and heaven and earth, holding that light, this Christ light. And what is Christ light? It's the Christ light of the new human being, the 5D human being, crystalline human being, moving from carbon-based, crystalline-based, moving from 2 strands to 12 strands, moving from 3 active chakras, base, sacral, solar plexus, to 12 active chakras, becoming a whole human being, synergized, open, connected to source. Feel the light of the earth holding you. Feel the light of the descending grid holding you, guiding your inner intuition, your inner GPS, guiding you through this volatile world. Yes, the world is volatile at this time, but the universe has your back. Allow your intuition, your feelings in the body, feelings in the emotions, to guide you. As you trust those feelings, eventually the mind will start to be anchored into your intuition, your higher mind, and you'll be guided by your thoughts also. But the initial stages is body and feeling. You can trust those first, and then the mind later, because the ego will interfere in the early stages. So just feeling that cross of light, the descending, the vertical cross, the horizontal cross, unifying the yin and the yang, heaven and earth in your being. You're meant to be unified. Know this, that you're meant to be free in this world. You're meant to be free in this world and in all other worlds. You're meant to be free in this world. And you're meant to be free in all other worlds. That is your destiny. That is your destiny. That is your destiny. Just have a breath. Just bless the archangels holding the space. You can release them or allow them to shine brightly around you for a while as you wish. Take a breath. Wiggle fingers and toes. Come back. And come back. Allow the Holy Cross to vibrate powerfully within you. Holy Cross. The vertical and horizontal cross. Equilateral cross. Ah. Voila, Judy.
My brother from another mother. Love you. Thank you. That was stunning. I actually saw this cross actually begin to spiral, and it looked less 2D, and it looked like almost like a sphere. And then I started to see, it was so interesting. I guess what would be like the Merkaba, right? The stars.
Yeah.
So interesting. And just to remember this, the power of our own connection to these
You
beautiful.
have to be careful with the Merkaba. You might disappear and your husband will be worried, going, where's she gone?
Where'd
She's
she
gone
go?
traveling somewhere. Where is she?
I know. I was like, am I supposed to step in that? It just showed up the two stars and the cross, and I'm like, this is fascinating. It was 3D, and like, that was beautiful, so beautiful. And I'm just going to say for everyone, please come back, listen again, and know that you were designed with this divine right, this ability to transcend, to awaken, to express your light. And Steve, thank you. I just, as you were speaking and leading that meditation, it was just a reminder that this new aspect of the lighter aspect of humanity, we all start with ourselves. And you are doing that. You were courageous enough to step into what was challenging and dark nights of the soul for yourself. And now today, imperfectly, but also very authentically, you're able to light and lead the way for so many starseeds and light bearers and wisdom keepers. And I'm just really grateful for you. And I'm grateful to the divine for connecting us. I
love our connection.
You're beautiful. Thank you.
And I love that your journey, where you've come from, is very powerful. I loved hearing about it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Steve.
Till next time, Julie.
Till next time. And we want to thank you, our beloved listener, our community. We are all in this together. We're actually all related, all of us, all humans. But we know if you're here, you have a calling to express more light. And may this conversation, this activation meditation, may it be a blessing. May it remind you to express your light as much as possible. And may you know you're loved. We love you. Mwah.